Hi, this is Rabbi Orlofsky, and welcome to the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Thank you very much for that spontaneous applause. And whether you're watching with our friends over at Turning Time, or wherever you watch and listen to your podcast, as always, we're happy to have you along for the experience. I want to start with our sponsorship. I'd like to sponsor an episode in honor of my parents, Mordechai ben Sarah, Rivka, and Shoshana Aliza Bas Chana Shena. May they have a refuah shlema and live for many more years in good health, happiness, and nachas from all of their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. This is mamish b'chatzi dibur, this sponsorship, because they wrote me privately what they're going through, and there's really mamish terrible tsaros, and they really need tefillas. So we're going to put the names up, so you could jot them down, and please have them in mind in your tefillas, because they mamish need a refuah shlema. And the person said, look, I don't want anyone to know what my matzav is, so please don't give any of the details, because people will figure it out. I'm not mentioning my name. I don't want anyone to know. But we're going through very difficult times. And so really on behalf of the entire Rabbi Orlofsky family and community, we're happy that with this podcast should emir Hashem and your schus, all of the mitzvahs and all the Torah and all of the wisdom that we spread and all of the joy, which is the main thing, like Kamala Harris, all the joy that we share should be mamash schus for your parents. And speaking of Torah Anytime, I'm reading this, but I'll add some of my own words. You know about Torah Anytime, because when I had a few live shows in America, and Rabbi Kol Yaakov, who is the founder and chief cook and bottle washer, as we used to say, of Torah Anytime, with all of his ideas and things, was a guest. So you could just go back and watch that. But I'm going to read what I was asked to read. Torah Anytime is one of the greatest Torah resources in the world today. When he came on, I think he said 10 million hours of Torah was learned through Torah Anytime. 10 million hours. That's hard to fit in. It's hard to conceive of 10 million. When I was running a day camp in Beverly Hills, so we were taking the oldest division. I was also running the oldest division, which was 5-year-olds. We were taking them to Disneyland. And one of them said, I've been to Disneyland, I don't know, like 10 times. And another kid said, I've been there almost 100 times. And the third kid said, I've been there almost 1,000,000 times. And Poindexter, I had one of those kids, Poindexter, they part their hair in the middle and they got the thick glasses and stuff. He was way smarter than he should be. He looks at the kid and he says, even if you went to Disneyland every single day of your life, you couldn't have gone 1,000,000 times. And the kid said, I said almost 1,000,000, okay? I didn't say 1,000,000, I said almost. In any event, 10 million, that's a big number. Yeah? They enable people across the globe to access Torah anytime, anywhere, completely for free. Whether someone is looking for Gemara, Halacha, Chasidus, Hashkafa, Musa, or inspiration. I don't know which one I am. Torah Anytime has thousands upon thousands of shiurim available at the click of a button. And it's true. There is a waiting list to get on because they just don't even have enough staff to process the videos that come in to put it up on Torah Anytime. People are trying to get on. I, of course, am among the top 10. Just mentioned. And it's not just online. They also have a phone system. So even someone without internet can literally call in and listen to a show over the phone. I have a lot of people that I've met. Yeshiva Bachram, they said, no, of course I don't have the internet, but I use the call-up option on Torah Anytime. That means Torah is accessible to anybody, no matter where they live or what their situation is. And they once made a cheshbon where people were who were listening, like all over the world. I mean, people were in deepest, darkest Africa listening to Torah Anytime. What's incredible is that Torah Anytime makes all of this free, even though the costs are enormous: hosting the website, streaming video, maintaining the phone system, purchasing camera and audio equipment, and everything that goes into producing Torah content at a scale you cannot imagine. I want to emphasize something. This podcast is being produced by Torah Anytime. They pay for the camera equipment, and our videographer and editor work for Torah Anytime. They were literally helping bring this show to you as part of their mission to spread Torah. That's true. That's why even before they were my producers, I always used to say, whether you're watching with our friends over at Torah Anytime or any place else, because that's the first address. Torah Anytime has been around for about 20 years. We now have over 1.6 million users. And I didn't say almost. Yeah. More than 18 million hours of Torah watched. Yikes. I was only at 10. Now they're at 18. And over 400,000 classes available. I don't know if you understand the hardware that's necessary to be able to keep all of that going. The annual fundraiser is taking place next week, February 15th to the 16th. I want to encourage everyone who's listening, please support Torah Anytime generously. You're not just donating to a website, you're supporting global Torah learning for every Jew, everywhere, anytime, Tizkul Mitzvahs. I want to add that when you go onto the website, you have the option to click on a particular speaker's page. I have a particular page. I don't work very hard to recruit and to raise money, yet every year I have, Baruch Hashem, made my goal of how much I was assigned to have to try to raise. So I would say support Torah Anytime. And if you listen to other speakers there and you're more dedicated to them, then by all means go to their pages. But if you are neheneh from the Rabbi Orlofsky show, please go to my page on Torah Anytime and make a donation because, like I say, they make this show possible. You know, we were down for a while because we didn't have a producer and we didn't have any way of keeping it going. So we're hoping that we'll be able to get your support. And last but not least, I would be remiss if I did not mention the Rabbi Orlofsky Pesach program in the Nov Kinneret, which will be taking place on Pesach. There's an option to start the night of B'dikas Chametz. There's an option for the Shabbos afterwards, but the main program will be taking place during Pesach. There's a second day option. There's day camps. There's all kinds of wonderful things. It's really wonderful to come along. We are almost 2/3 sold out, which is about where I wanted to be around Tu B'Shvat. So we only have 1/3 of the hotel left. And apparently, some people are booking half Pesach. So if a person wants to do half Pesach, apparently they're doing that as an option too. I didn't think we were going to do that, but we are. So if you are the type of person who wants to clean your entire house, make your Seder at home, and then go to a hotel, because you're just a glutton for punishment. I can't understand why anybody in their right mind would do that. But you have that option. And if you don't want to have to deal with it, you figure I could just clean up, and buy myself a box of matzahs and a frying pan and have some eggs, and mostly the Seder and Yontif is what I need. You can come for the first part and then go back home for the rest of it and stare at each other. But anyway, you can go to my website, RabbiOrlofsky.com, and click on the link. We have a bunch of shorts and ads. It's a lot of fun. Okay, that finishes all of our bits of business. And Rabbi Orlofsky's show would like to welcome, for his first appearance, and hopefully not his last, Rabbi Chananya Greenwald to the show. Thank you, the audience is getting it together. Baruch Hashem. And Rabbi Chananya Greenwald used to be the Rosh Yeshiva of TJ. Now he's the Rosh Yeshiva of T. Because when I always remember the yeshiva was Yeshiva Tiferes Yerushalayim, and everyone used to call it TJ. And apparently, there's another yeshiva that has that name, Tiferes Yerushalayim, in Brooklyn, in Manhattan, someplace you may have heard of. And so Rabbi Chananya agreed to change the name to just Tiferes, so he's now the Rosh Yeshiva of Tiferes. And, in Yerushalayim, Tiferes in Yerushalayim. Yeah. It's like, I mentioned this when Dovid Leibowitz came to America and he opened up Yeshiva Chavetz Chaim. So he called it Yeshiva Chavetz Chaim because the Chavetz Chaim sent him to America to open a yeshiva and to build Torah. And then when one of the family came, they said, no, we want the name. So they changed the name to Yeshivas Rabbi Yisrael Meir HaKohen Baal HaChavetz Chaim. Just rolls off the tongue. Anyway, welcome to the show, Rabbi Chananya.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. And I want to tell you why Rabbi Chananya is here. Rabbi Chananya has spent, how many years?
About 5.
About 5 years writing this book, which is called RONNIE, about his father, Rabbi Ronnie Greenwald. I read it through because they sent me a copy for free, which is the best way to get me to read something. I don't read quickly. I have dyslexia, I have ADD, I have focusing problems, and it's reading is difficult for me. My wife is one of those people who can open up one of those 4-page kliyuckers and go like this. Okay, here's what he says. And I'm still reading the Divrei Maschil, So I read very slow. I finished everything, including the afterword. I read the preface, I read the afterword. And I have read a lot of biography books. And it starts off, okay, pretty interesting, but pretty standard. And I said to myself, when I go and they write my art school biography, and I've been trying to come up with something for them to say. Every now and then I'll be driving somebody and it's raining and they say, I say, where do you live? And they say, you just drop me off over here. I said, no, I'll drive you to your house. Because you don't have to. I said, I need something in my art school biography. It was raining and it was cold and Rabbi Orlofsky was sitting in his warm car and he went 3 minutes out of his way to bring me to my house. Make sure and add that in, So I figured, okay, they could come up with something.
But now that I use that for the opening.
So I start reading. It's pretty standard. And then you reach part 2. And this is my one criticism of the book. There is nothing to prepare you for this transition. Nothing. All of a sudden, he's in Africa being shot at by communists. He's dealing with the KGB. He's getting Sharansky out. He's dealing with some family in Vilna. He's building a mikveh. He's running over here. And suddenly, he's doing international intrigue, which I have to say, I have nothing on my resume that could, and I can't think of any biography of any recent person that I can say I have had any experience like that. He was offered a cabinet position in the Nixon White House, which is unbelievable. Forget about the cover and the money and everything that went with it. And he says, no, I don't like the schools over there. I'll stay here in Muncie. And I don't know what was he doing, Torah Masorah at the time, maybe for like $12. I don't. Anyway, so that just blows you out of the water. So tell me about this book. How did it get written?
We didn't start in a standard way at all. This book started completely different than every other biography in the Jewish world.
Tell me about it.
It starts in an orphanage. Little boy runs to the gate of the orphanage.
That's not where it started.
It starts in the introduction.
It started the introduction.
Regards from Dad. Come on.
The introduction really shocked me because a guy comes over and says, oh, you related to Ronnie Greenwald? He saved my life. This kid was in a mental institution. His parents had locked him up, and somehow your father had managed to get him out. You don't describe how. There's no details given over here, but somehow he took on this very powerful, influential family, and they said, we're going to destroy you. Apparently he was told that a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't the first or the last time.
So he starts right away, you say, okay, that is out of the ordinary. But then, okay, so give us a little details of it. I remember when I had your brother Zachariah on the show, he had written a book about Bali Tshuva. Now, I knew your dad. I had no idea about any of this stuff. I knew him from NCSY because we made a convention in Moganav, and they said, call Ronnie Greenwald, he's got connections. They told me. He says, yeah, I'll get you the camp for the convention, But I had no idea. I mean, he was so amazingly average. I knew him for years. I would never have guessed anything that's written in this book, except he had some connections in Moganav and he helped out people and stuff like that, But the stuff that's in this book is outrageous. So tell me, give me the background where this book came from.
Well,
by the way, I get criticized sometimes in interviews that I talk too much. Go ahead. Which, by the way, reminds me of a story. I'm just kidding.
Hey, donut. So,
that's what I was saying. So when Zachariah was on I didn't know he was going to make a point. Zachariah was there. He said, I said, what do you know about Bali Tshuva? Because I knew your dad. He was like a regular firm guy. She goes, what are you talking about? My mother's a Bali Tshuva.
Yes.
And I was like, how is that even possible? So obviously there's more going on over here than meets the eye. I'm sorry, now you got the floor.
I'm still trying to do Tshuva. So, you know. But, for starters, so you see that there's another name in the book, Suri Cohen. Mrs.
Of course.
She
Ami Cohen and I go back many years,
right,
obviously.
and
I had no idea that he was learning with your father.
Yeah. In the last year they had. I think it was maybe I don't remember exactly how long it was for. It was actually my father had a lot of fun in that conversation. How can you not have fun when you're sitting with Ami Cohen?
Yeah.
And
no, it's great because the two of them can't get in. You see, you're very well behaved. I have guests where the two of us are fighting to talk, but the two of them are talkers.
They're like reading what it says in the Shulchan Aruch.
Yeah.
And that was a chavrusa, and then Suri Cohen worked on a book for about 3 years, and then there was just this like enormous, just amount of stories, and we were really trying to figure out like kind of what.
How big was the book when she finished?
It's hard to know because there was a lot of editing, there was a lot of additions along the way, but it might have been like 270,000 words. Like now it's 140.
So it was almost three times as big.
It could have been
double
twice.
for sure.
It could have been twice this. It's hard to know exactly because there were so many different stages. And I spent a really long time. She did most of the interviews. I didn't have time to do any of this. Like as you mentioned first, like I have a yeshiva. I was just editing because I have a.
Now I have to say,
background.
The book is very well written.
Thank you.
Where'd you get that from?
HaKadosh Baruch Hu knew I would starve if I didn't have a skill. And he gave me. I edited the Yonason Rosenblum's book, the Rabbi Yaakov book. I edited a number.
You edited Rosenblum's books.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I translated Gemara for art school.
You hear that? And you were art school translator?
I translated Gemara for art school for a few years.
Where'd you go to high school?
Which year?
Where did you go to that you learned how to do this?
No.
Because most from high schools do not prepare people.
So as you mentioned, like my mother's a Baal Tshuva, she had an education. Has an education. In addition, I was a big reader. Instead of school, I mostly read. Like I would sit there with a book underneath the desk during secular studies, never during Torah studies. I was too well educated for that, but I would sit there reading, and when I took my interview in high school for Ner Yisrael, that was one of the schools that had the
privilege of having it.
So the principal said to me, he said, "How many books have you read in the last year?" And I said, 350. And he said, 350? I said, maybe 400. He said, that's more than a book a day. I said, right. I read a book every day. And I would just like kind of work my way through. Then, they started making those books against the rules in yeshiva. But I read I was a very big reader.
I was in Tzvi'ka Shulevsky, where guys had English books that they were reading. I don't know what they were, but I know the mashgiach who was an Israeli, went around and collected all the English books and brought it to Tzvi. He says, you see what the boys are reading? And Tzvi goes, oh, this one's okay. This one's okay. This one's better not to have in yeshiva. This one. So apparently you're not the only one who was well read there.
This is one of the prerequisites to being a Rosh Yeshiva.
Yeah, well,
Trey and I.
When you have,
how often do we get in the same sentence?
Well, when you have your next kid at 80, you'll be able to.
88. Come on.
Tzvi'ka Shulevsky had a kid at 81. Anyway, yeah. Well, that's the main way to learn how to write.
I read a lot, and I always had I used to write my friends' papers in college. They were in college, and I was in yeshiva, and I would help them write papers. I just liked writing. And then Have
you written other stuff? I understand you edited the art scroll and this.
Yeah, I translated a couple of Sfarim. But other than that, I hadn't done like real creative writing since probably 8th grade.
There's not. They say everybody has a book inside of them. Do you have a book inside of you?
I have a few other books that we'll see. If the yeshiva continues, I might not write them, but one never knows. So
I don't know what to wish for in that case.
Right. I'm not sure. I'm having the same suffix. My father's not here to tell me.
That's right.
And he's in my Shapiro, so I'm completely
right. I know the feeling.
Get me another blind man to lead me, and I'll tell you. Anyway, so then editing it. And we were really trying to figure out, like, as a family, like what, and how we wanted the book to feel. And she came up with the idea that each kid in the family should write their own chapter, or like should write their own chapter, and that would be like growing up Greenwald. And
that's a different book. That's not this book.
That's actually in this book. So
I know, but it's not this book.
Well, so it started like that, and then it was like, you know what? I'm kind of finding the direction of like who I think my father was, and like always, it's going to be who you think the person you're writing about was, and
the goal,
my vision, and I had to just keep like.
Because the goal is at the end to try to come up with an objective picture. And I remember when Ramesha Shapiro was Nifter, I didn't listen to any of the Hespedim.
Oh gosh, they almost killed me with them. I was so depressed afterwards.
Someone said to me, "Why not?" And I said, "Because they're talking about their Reb Moshe, and I'm talking about mine.
Yeah.
And my memory of Reb Moshe is different than everybody else's."
Well, for starters, you knew a human being. Yeah, that's the first difference.
Right.
So I knew.
So that's why if you take this one's perspective and that one's perspective, you don't see what you see when you're dealing with facts.
So here we had to do that, and also like just to tell the stories in a way that really kind of accorded with it. I don't remember who, you might know this. There was an actor once who said, like, acting's a great job if nobody catches you at it. So I wanted kind of the language to flow in a way that you don't even realize you're reading. It just kind of pulls you in.
Right.
And so I worked, that's why it was 5 years. I mean, a lot of
and
whatever.
If you're a Rosh Hashiva and you're dealing with Talmidim and you're raising money and all the administrative stuff, I don't know where you found the time.
So I got really sick in the middle and almost died, and the doctor says because I was working too long. I did come back to it, though. I was sick for a few years.
Right.
You remember.
I remember.
And, but Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hu gave me life. So when I got really involved, originally I was just editing. Language, cut it down, make it flow. And then COVID happened, and my mother was basically alone in the house. And this book was really, she was working on the book. My mother's also a very good editor, and she worked thousands of hours on this book. And so...
Yeah, that's not your average, very often when they put out a biography, it comes out like a month after the person was nifter. So either they were writing it while they were still alive, or it's a chap job. And very often you read it, and it's a chap job, Someone told me a story a long time ago where there was some Levaya in the Hamodia in Hebrew reported that there were 100 people at the Levaya. So somebody called them up and said, "What are you talking about? I was there. There was only 50 people." He goes, "There were 50 people? I would have said 300.
Yeah, we tried not to go that way. There's no hyperbole, and almost anything that sounded like. His life was unbelievable. At his hesped, I said, the halacha is you're allowed to exaggerate by hesped, but it's really hard to exaggerate for him. Yeah.
It does not. The stories are so outrageous that you couldn't make it up. Like you couldn't make up half of these stories. Right.
So looking back, so Corona happens, COVID happened. My mother was kind of isolated in her home. And so we were all trying to, we're all being in touch with her as much as possible. And I said, "Okay, Ma, we're going to work on the book every day." And so I told everybody, you cannot reach me after 4:30 until 10 o'clock at night. And then so every day from 4:35 till 10, my time in Eretz Yisrael, she was 9:30 in the morning for her, 10 o'clock in the morning for her, and we'd start working on the book together.
Wow.
And we kind of were going over it first line by line, then paragraph by paragraph, and then gradually looking at the whole tzura of it. And so there was just all this work was going in. So then I kind of got sucked in by the undertow. I was just kind of taking a leisurely swim along the shore. I wasn't really doing this, very deep writing, just kind of, editing. But at some point, I just got more and more involved, and then it kind of took over my life. And so I'd leave yeshiva every day after mincha, and I'd rush home, and we'd have mincha in the middle of Seder. So 4:15, we'd have mincha. 4:30, I'd rush home. And this went on quite a few months, and then I got sick. And then I was doing 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, an hour. Dr. Matthew says to me, if you continue this, you might just die. So at that point, and for a couple of years, it just kind of languished. It was not here and not there. It was in between. And then as Baruch Hashem, I started getting better. So little by little, we started putting more and more time into it. And And it was a whole question whether, how we were going to do it, whether we do it with Art Scroll. I was like, are they going to allow this personality to come out? It's kind of very different. I gave this book to Rav Asher Weiss last week. But this week, I went to visit Rav Asher Weiss. I had a shiurim for him. So I gave him the book, with a nice inscription, And he said to me, I'm going to read this book. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I am going to read this book because he was a fascinating man.
I read the whole thing.
And I feel it was...
and I never read anything.
Got up on Rav Asher Weiss, right? And,
I don't read nothing.
and if next time you see him, you can just say to him, look, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but
I finished
the book. And
with the footnote.
Right, there you go. and it'll say, Shaz, you're saying Dovid, Sifris.
I didn't do the glossary in the end. I knew all the words. Yeah.
And so he said it's a brave book because it's so different, and he was so different than anybody that traditionally their biography is about. And so I didn't know if they would do it. And I said, just read it and tell me whether you're going to want to change it or not.
Right.
And so first it was a lot of back and forth, and finally Mrs. Dick read it and she said, I would not change more than 10 words in this book.
Wow.
I didn't know people write like this today anymore. And I was like, oh. And my mother was like doubting it was going to come out. My mother was not, Baruch Hashem, she's not so young anymore, even though she's, great. And she was like, I just want to see it, because we didn't know if it would ever come out. It was so many years until we kind of got there. So, first of all, without Siri Cohen, there was no chance this ever would have come out because she probably interviewed a few hundred people.
That's what I was going to ask you also. Did you rely on all of her material or did you do more research?
A ton of research, and I also had a ton of memories. I also had a ton of experience. And so that was the thing. It's like when you're writing a book about somebody that you knew tangentially, you knew them, or you didn't know them at all, and you're taking all the interviews and you're trying to build a picture of them. And then I'm like, I don't know.
A lot is nuanced.
This guy, it's different. I lived this.
Right, a lot is nuanced because I could tell you a story about somebody how I perceived it.
Right.
But someone who knows the story.
Right. So that's kind of it was really the collaboration. We weren't working head to head, but that's kind of how the book came out. And so, if anybody wants to write a book like this, right, 9 years, 2 people, it's very easy.
Right. This is not
to the next one from idiots.
This is not the average biography. I tell you that up front, and I've read a bunch of them, and some of them are slogs, quite frankly. And this is just so readable. It's just so amazing. Besides the fact that you know a lot of the people that I think, I'll tell you when I knew that this is not your typical Gadol biography, because among the sources you're quoting is WikiLeaks.
Right. So I was like, this doesn't make sense. All this stuff.
Who decided to go to WikiLeaks?
Me.
You.
I was like,
that wasn't sorry.
All this stuff has.
These are secret communications in the government.
Cables.
Where it mentions Ronnie Greenwald.
He has to be in them.
Right.
And I went onto WikiLeaks and I found 20 cables about him, and then some of the cases that he was involved in. Kissinger was trying to get this guy out for 8 years, and nothing came of it. And I was like, this is the guy that he made the deal with. Oh my goodness, because I kept, it's like a rabbit hole. You could be, go down there forever. WikiLeaks, I don't know how many 100 million cables.
It's unbelievable. That's why I don't know how you found him.
They have a great search function.
Yeah.
They have a great search function, and I just used the search function, and then we had to put the story together. Okay, this was this year, this was this trip, this was this.
Are there more things there that you left out?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. And
cloak
and dagger stuff
afterwards. Yeah, dozens. But we didn't know this. My father.
There were a couple of stories there which you allude to, and you say, my father didn't want us to talk about this, or he never mentioned about this story.
Yeah, more than that. I got a call from a guy in South Africa, a letter from someone in South Africa. We knew about some case because it was alluded to in the WikiLeaks, but I never knew the details. And he had done some deal to get South African soldiers who were being held in Rwanda that was under Cuban control.
It has nothing to do with your dad. No Yidden there.
Except that they contacted my father to ask if he could use, as they called it in the WikiLeaks, his good offices.
Right.
And I think it was I don't know, Warren Christopher, nothing's going to come out of it.
Right.
Okay, Warren. Hope you're not watching. No, I hope you're watching. No, stop.
So,
yeah.
Tell the first one was the one in Mozambique.
The first one was Mozambique.
That was the first one.
Yeah.
So tell this story because there's so many aspects of this story that is so outrageous that doesn't fit in with anything. The Shiloh to emotion.
I found a photographer.
Well, there's a picture there.
The pictures.
Yeah.
I reached him a couple of months ago to ask him if he had a certain picture that I had seen in the book, because I wanted it on the book cover. And he is like on some kind of, Zen retreat out in South Africa somewhere. But he actually, he responded, and we were back and forth. He said, I don't have the microfilm anymore. It was microfilm. It was 1978. It was.
I got to tell this story, because this is the first one I read this. This was the first one. He started a couple of camps. He was working in Torah Masorah. He was a Rebbe in Torah Semes. Okay,
Like
this is all
regular guy.
pretty standard stuff. Next thing I know, he goes to Israel for some conference.
Wait, but you see,
and that's when everything just goes insane. That's when the book goes off the rails.
So it started before this, because he got involved in local politics. Mayor, in Brooklyn. George Klein
Started with Rockefeller.
Coalition, even before that, maybe with Lindsay and Rockefeller. So he got very involved in bringing Rockefeller to Brooklyn, Borough Park. He got him and Marvin Schick and.
I remember Rockefeller.
Right? Yeah, sure, Rocky.
I mean,
and
I grew up. Every time I wanted to do something, my father would say, "What do you think? My name is Rockefeller."
Right?
Today, nobody knows who he is, but that was Rockefeller was like, Rothschild. You know what I mean? What am I, a Rothschild? So you used to say, "What am I, Rockefeller?"
Father was a billionaire. He used to give out
John D.
Yeah, he used to give out nickels to his friends.
Right, but he had a ranch in South America that was bigger than all of New York City. So he was like
saying you need
obviously wealthy Rockefeller.
Place to put all your animals. Anyway, so he brought it. He did.
So he was with Lindsay before that.
Lindsay and Rockefeller.
But how do you get into politics,
because there were local needs, and I think George Klein, Republican coalition. I think he's the one who's really a little involved in politics. He said, "Look, there are people who could bring you the Jewish vote." So my father was one of those guys. He has some line. He says, Rabbi Stephen Weiss can, sees his people, once a year at the high holidays. He says, I can get out the vote between Mincha and Meir.
Now, this is interesting, because the Frum community was not large at this time.
They were growing, and what was happening was
I wouldn't think a politician would much rather get the regular vote than to go for the Orthodox vote.
Borough, you need your assemblyman, you need your congressman, you need all the people represented. He's like, there's a type of Jew here that you don't even know about. And
right, there was a line in the book where he said, all of these buildings are filled with Democratic voters, but they all believe in what the Republicans believe in. So we have a chance to switch them over. I thought that was a great line.
Yeah. So he got involved in Rockefeller's campaign. It was supposed to only be local, just in Borough Park, or
Was he having a hard time at this point, Rockefeller, because he had been governor for years?
I don't know, but I guess he wanted to vote. He heard that there's Louis Lefkowitz was Jewish, and I'm saying they were like, who was the attorney general? Javits. I'm saying so they were so. I don't know. Like I was 5 years old, 6 years old. Like born in 1965. I'm a youngster here.
Yeah.
So he worked in the Rockefeller campaign, and there was some issue with the motorcade, and it was interesting. Rockefeller was very dyslexic.
Really?
And they would write. I don't know if it was his idea, but they would write out his notes like on an index card, like very large, like 1 or 2 words on an index card, and that's how they would prompt him. Like the teleprompter you have here for me. Mm-hmm. So like something like that, and that's how they would prompt him, and that's how he would do, because he couldn't read a regular sentence without scrambling it.
Wow.
But he was so charismatic, and he had such personality. Anyway, so something my father did stood out, and he said, I want
him
for the rest of the campaign. I did not know that.
Yeah.
64. I wasn't born. Of course I don't know.
In 64, he lost to Goldwater, and it's
Barry Goldwater. Nixon lost to Barry Goldwater.
No, Nixon didn't run in 64. He ran in 60 and 68. But
you won't have me to kick around.
That was when he ran for governor of California, and he lost.
California.
So he waited. But Rockefeller would have gotten there, but there was some sort of scandal that went on, and the Republican base turned against him. Yeah, amazing, huh? And so So he lost the nomination.
Right, okay.
Anyway,
Now Rockefeller gets in.
it's almost president.
Rockefeller gets in. He's vice president. If
Right.
Nixon had gotten impeached a little earlier,
Right.
so then he would have been president.
Yeah.
So he kind of brought my father to their attention. And then, so my father then ran the vote for Nixon, the Jewish vote, in 13 states, I think, the Eastern Seaboard. And they got like 35% of the votes, which was the first time.
So now they gave him a whole bunch of states to do? He's basically a guy from Brooklyn. So why'd they give him all these states?
Back then, 1 out of, I think, 14 people in America was born in Brooklyn. Just putting that out there for you.
But I'm saying some guy working for Torah Masorah, and we say, I know, let's put him in charge of multiple states in a presidential campaign.
Yeah, okay. Ask them.
That's unusual.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, he must have impressed them. I guess Rockefeller must have said good stuff about him. You're right. A lot of stuff we didn't unpack because we just grew up with it. And then there's no records about this. Anything that there's records for, I found things in the congressional record, these conversations. I found things about the stories in Peru. I'm looking in Peruvian documents, translating them with Google Translate. Forget about it. There was no end to this. And at some point, I was like,
Peru story is also amazing.
Huh?
The Peru story is also...
Anyway, so get back to South Africa. Because he got
Mauritania.
Mozambique.
Mozambique.
Yeah, back to Mozambique. So, okay. So he's involved in local politics. And he's involved with Nixon. And he works on committee to re-elect president. CREEP, as they called it. Committee to re-elect President Nixon. Remember that? And then the Watergate scandal broke and Nixon gets impeached. So now Nixon is out. Ford is in. He had a little bit of a relationship with Ford. Ford was vice president in the second time around. And he had a letter from Ford about Kissinger. And he's a little bit involved. And then Carter gets in, right? Was it Carter next? So Carter gets in, and now it's a Democrat. So he has some connections, but not what he used to have. Now he's in Eretz Yisrael. It's 1977, I think. And...
that's when the Sadat and Begin Accords. It was in 77.
But this was just he's in Eretz Yisrael for an OU convention.
Nothing to do with any politics, with nothing.
Nothing, no. Now what happened was this guy, Flato Sharon, who was a member of the Knesset, that crazy story how he became a member of the Knesset, whatever. Right. And he had his, and he reached out to my uncle, who had built a nursing home in Eretz Yisrael. He had built Laniado Hospital, my uncle.
Right.
And he had also built a nursing home first, before Laniado maybe was even finished, or maybe Laniado was first, I don't remember. But he had done this stuff, so he had these connections with the government here. So Flato Sharon reached out to him. Here's an American doing things in Israel. Do you have connections in America with the government? He says, I don't. My younger brother does. And my father had once met him somewhere, Flato Sharon in New York. Whatever the case... I think. Whatever the case, when my father came to Eretz Yisrael for this OU convention, essentially, Flato Sharon reached out to him. He said, how would you like to, save Anatoly Sharansky? Who had just then become famous in the news. Refusnik, he wanted to emigrate to Israel. They said he was an American spy. Who wouldn't want to save Sharansky? So he goes to meet with him. And my mother was there also, this beautiful villa in Savion. The guy was, he had saved $300 million in taxes in France, apparently, so he had plenty for his villa.
Yeah.
And, that
was a great story.
So whatever the case, he says, you want to free him this day, so it might be too early for him, but there is a guy, I guess his mother maybe was living in Israel. He was an Israeli citizen, Miron Marcus. He's in jail in Mozambique. He's flying a private plane. Him and his brother-in-law crash landed in Mozambique, or it was shot down. Even in WikiLeaks, you can't, even with there was no radar to talk about,
But when he saved him, why didn't he ask him? How'd you get there?
Maybe he did, but I don't know.
We don't know. He didn't tell that part of the story.
So he was. I think he said they were shot down. In any event, he was putting this page in Mozambique. They said he was an Israeli spy, South African spy, whatever it was. They didn't like either one. They were under the Soviet rule, so as a result. So he ended up spending 19 months in jail. He actually got out of that cage at one point, and he came to the American embassy. And he had 4 bullet wounds. His brother-in-law was killed. He had 4 bullet wounds. You could even see in the pictures, his elbow. And Americans said, well, he was thin, he was, whatever. It didn't look like he was so mistreated. He wasn't an American citizen. We didn't let him in. We sent him back. And so, yeah. So he wasn't an American citizen. So he was back in Mozambique. And so Flata Sharon wanted to do something about it. And
What did Flata Sharon have to do with this guy in Mozambique?
I think, no, because he was an Israeli citizen.
Yeah, but how come nobody in the government cares about this guy except for Flata Sharon, of all people?
Okay, you will never unpack this one. That I can tell you.
Who, from what I remember, he was one of the least concerned about anything other than himself. And suddenly he's worried about this guy Marcus in Mozambique.
We only had positive experiences with him.
I know, but nobody else does.
Answer this question.
Nobody from the Begin government, nobody from the left, nobody cared about him except Flata Sharon.
Yeah, at some point the government actually there was a fear that the government might block it. Like that's in WikiLeaks. I didn't put it in, but that's in WikiLeaks. Like there was afraid the Israeli government might block it. Like, what do you mean? Like, if the Soviet spy being freed, let's get more for it than this 24-year-old guy who's like, whatever the case was. So he's in jail, and he says to my father, he get him out. My father says, you would ask me about swaps, back then. What do I know about swapping? Right. He says, I don't know, bunk gimel to bunk hay, in camp, like prisoner swaps. Prisoner swaps didn't exist in the international community. Where it did exist was in
Germany, on the East-West Berlin.
And that's
Point Charlie over there.
And that's where the lawyer that he did his work with, Wolfgang Vogel, that's where he had first started this whole thing of swaps, him and his...
Now, how did he hook up with this guy? Because that's also an amazing point. It's not clear in the book where Wolfgang came into this.
Okay,
what was on your dad? Okay. Is working with this communist lawyer.
So Wolfgang had one famous case, Francis Gary Powers.
Yeah.
Got shot down.
Sure.
Over Cuba, right?
Was it Cuba?
Anyway, he got shot down.
Russia. He got shot down over Russia.
Anyway, he got shot down. He was flying a spy plane. He got shot down.
U-2.
In the U-2, right? And that was the last prisoner swap that had been done, trade. It was a spy trade. It was a spy trade in the 60s that had been done, and Wolfgang Vogel had brokered the deal for the Russians.
So this is 15 years later.
Yes. So he's an East German lawyer who is doing all kinds of prisoner swaps with East and West Germany. But he had brokered a trade between the United States and Soviet Union.
So your father, all the way back, who's running Camp Sternberg.
Sharon. No, my father knew so much about politics, though. But I don't think he knew about this. I think
who knew about the Wolfgang guy?
I think Flata Sharon made the connection.
How did he know him?
My mother. I mean, he was the guy who was in politics. I don't know, so he knew. It's a good question. I said to my mother, how did he find these different people? How did he figure out? How do you do? So she's like, I have no idea.
That's why.
Really hard. He read a lot.
One of the fascinating things is there's this little drawing in your father's handwriting. He's got like 6 countries. He says, what if we switch this guy to them, have them give him and that, and then we could get Sharansky.
That's right.
It's like, you're just sitting there like doodling names and think, maybe if Israel gives this one to him and South Africa gives them
I can just hear him doing, maybe if we do it.
I think we could pull this off.
Anyway, so he
hooks up with Wolfgang.
So he calls Gilman, Congressman Gilman,
which is also a fascinating connection. It's in the book over and over.
He's a local congressman,
but at some point he became a senator.
He became the head of the Foreign Affairs Committee
in the House
of Representatives.
Because this guy is from Muncie.
He's from Rockland County.
Right. And suddenly, he's the most important guy in the U.S. government. I never heard of this guy until I read this book.
My father helped him get into, office. Like, he got in by this much. But the Frum community in Muncie carried the vote.
Right.
And then he was, I think, one of the longest, or if not the longest, serving member of Congress. And
he keeps popping up in every single story. Gilman's there.
Moving up. And that's the crazy thing that Sharansky told us, that Gilman's Chazal was your father. Everything he said was Ronnie Greenwald says. Which, they were good friends. He was the only politician that was a friend. Like, in other words, that my father, actually welcomed into the home, and we knew him.
Played basketball.
He came from basketball. That picture. He played basketball with me. that picture
Was any good?
of him, he was shooting like, whatever. He was also not.
Good thing he was in Congress
He
then.
was younger than I am now, so he wasn't so old, perhaps. But he was at my bar mitzvah. There was a picture in People magazine with me, my father, and Congressman Gilman at the bar mitzvah. This is after a prisoner swap. Like that was my first claim to fame. And then now it's a David Orlofsky show. I'm Rabbi Orlofsky show. That's my second.
But what's amazing over here is it sounds like Gilman got more out of this than your father did. Because he suddenly gets projected into every international thing when he's just a congressman from Muncie.
Right.
You know what I mean? And suddenly he's involved in every international swap.
Yeah, but you see, but he was like a Silver Star aviator. Like he was like a serious guy, Gilman. He performed in the wars. He was like a pretty talented guy. But I guess my father once, like, how smart was he? He says he's careful. He's like methodical. He wasn't, going to think. He didn't think.
Wasn't
my father could think. Like that, like out of the box. But he really passed a lot of legislation.
But he figured out how to use your father
to the State Department, and and so all that stuff kind of really.
And these people took your father seriously?
Not in the beginning, especially you see
some guy runs a camp and he comes in and goes, "Hi, I want to do international trade."
Don't they know he's a Rebbe also? Anyway, so they didn't. It took a while.
And he didn't look the part from the way you describe it. He wore red suspenders and a purple shirt and I know, but it's like, so that's not like how you like. Whereas people with a power sweater, power tie.
Yeah, that wasn't his power tie. And his taste in clothing was so fascinating. And he could, all the colors of the rainbow at once. You know what I'm saying? No problem. He loved bright colors. My mother once said, I think he's colorblind. That's why he thinks these things go together. So we said, Tara, what color is your tie? He said, purple. I said, what color is your shirt? He's like, pink. What color, his suspenders, red? I'm like, no, he sees the color. He just likes them together. Anyway, he wasn't colorblind. Anyway, so they started this negotiation, and they end up getting this guy from, for heaven's sake, an Israeli South African citizen, but because the Soviet Union and America were struggling, like for world domination,
right?
And they were like each spying on.
Yeah, this is the worst part. In the 70s,
nobody wants to admit it, like as if like spying is like a product. We don't spy. I know he's not a spy. We have no spies. And like, no, we have a spy. We didn't catch him. No, right? We have no spy. What are they talking about? Like this is part of the lie of the way the world plays the games. And a Russian spy, Robert Thompson, 13 years already in prison in Pennsylvania. They end up trading him for this guy and for a guy in East Berlin.
Now, why was that worth it to America?
Right? And
because some Israeli guy.
Question, right? You tell me. Hubert Humphrey. Oh, so what happened was that Hubert Humphrey, who was once vice president for Lyndon Johnson,
sure,
was he senator maybe in Minnesota?
Mm-hmm.
So he was one of his constituents had tried to smuggle people out of East Berlin to get him to West Berlin, to freedom, like out of the communist East Berlin to West Berlin, and he got caught and he was in prison. And so when they heard that Thompson was being traded, they got all upset. We want Thompson. And my father managed to work out the two of them for Thompson.
Wow.
And so, it went on forever. I'm saying it was months and months of negotiations.
Right. And then it comes down to Seder night.
Seder night.
This is the part that I found absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it wasn't. My father wasn't there for the Seder.
First day Yontif.
Yeah.
First day Yontif, he has to go to Mozambique.
Traveling, they end up arriving on Yontif in South Africa. Ramesh Fancy, Ramesh Fancy gave him a bracha to go, and he said, Zayt Matzliach, Zayt Matzliach, Zayt Matzliach, with him and with others. My father's like, well, he didn't even know what is he talking about. Okay, Ramesh Fancy said. Anyway, they end up going on Shabbos, they end up landing on Yontif. And Ramesh said he could have one stop, and that could be his base. And from there, he could go when he has to the swap.
So
why did he have?
Who sent the car for him?
So the U.S. Embassy sent the car, but the driver showed up drunk. Anyway, they ended up getting a cab, and the guy drove around the streets, and I had no idea where he was going. They get to the Seder at 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, they're just opening the door for Elio. Elio and Navi, and they walk in. And this whole case is like top secret.
Right.
Nobody's allowed to know anything about it. But somehow somebody smells something is going on, like the mikveh.
The mikveh, right.
And so like the story is like, is percolating. And so, like the next morning, when they're actually leaving to go to the swap, or 2 mornings later, I'll work out the math, and they're going to the place where the swap is going to happen, and they hear the kids in shul davening, and like my father's like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "The kids are davening that your mission should be matzliach,
your top secret mission."
Yeah, your top secret mission should be matzliach, And he was terrified. Like, if the Russians find out, Russians could cancel it in the last minute. They hated publicity.
Right.
And he always believed that about even, Russian Jewry, that the way to do it was with quiet diplomacy. And, okay, everybody can argue about it. Nobody's ever going to, win this argument. But
this is what somebody, I won't mention who it is, but somebody who is involved in politics said about, the spy that they arrested, who was giving information to Israel. Pollard. They said the same thing. They said these demonstrations and stuff is hurting the boys.
Yes, my father said it at the time. He went to see Pollard in prison, as you know. And we got this long letter from Pollard, like 27 pages.
But he couldn't get him out.
They were stonewalled at every level. There was so much.
Which is so interesting. Why is this? Why did every administration hate Pollard more than any other spy?
Pollard recently said, and I know this from a completely random place, somebody showed me a clip. He recently said because what happened is that, who was the spy? Was it Aldrich Ames? No, it was a long time ago. Who was it? A very, very big spy who was still in place in Russia floated that he was the guy burning the Russian assets. So the information came back to them that Pollard was the guy burning the American spies in Russia. And so this is what's going on. He's the guy burning the spies.
It's not true.
No, then they finally caught the guy who did it.
And they still didn't let him go.
Well, now you have to admit you're wrong. Come on, this is politics. Hello, we're grown-ups here.
Somebody told me it's because Caspar Weinberger was an anti-Semite.
This may or may not be the reason. I have heard that many times. My father said you cannot get information. Gilman could not get information. You're not cleared for this, basically, is what they were being told. Which makes a lot of sense, and they thought that he was the guy burning the American spies in Russia. With all this stuff going on,
so I'm interrupting you. So now
we have
he has to get to Mozambique on first day Yontif.
Second day Yontif. Yeah,
second day Yontif.
And he's there with Gilman in this little private plane. I found this information in WikiLeaks also about the Sateki airstrip, and there's no lights there, and they're using jeeps to very cool. Anyway, so they go.
He wasn't afraid they might just shoot him.
I don't understand this.
Because if I'm some guy from Brooklyn, and I'm landing in the middle of Mozambique in a little plane surrounded by a bunch of communists with machine guns, I would be nervous.
That's when Gilman asked.
I'm nervous.
I think those kids are still davening. True story.
I'm nervous when I land in Ben Gurion and I have to go through customs. I'm afraid they're going to shoot me.
That's right.
It's a land in Mozambique.
Somebody asked me this on a podcast recently. This question, I don't know how to answer this. Rabbi Shubatzal Kaplan said he came to the Shiva of my father, and he knew him since he was a bacher. He says, I could tell you this. There's no person on earth that your father was afraid of. Besides Rebbeinu Shalom, there was nobody else on earth that your father was afraid of. I don't know how. I don't know. Maybe it's because of the tough upbringing and the way he internalized it, and he did what he had to do, to go past it. I don't know that he didn't have fear. I know that he never allowed the fear to conquer him. That's the way I would say it. Of course he had fear, but I never saw him afraid. The only time I saw him afraid was when he thought he had a heart attack, because the guy was doing the EKG said he had a heart attack, but he didn't have, at that point, a heart attack. He had one 8 years later, but he and it was Shabbos, and we had spent many hours in the hospital, and then it was in the spire that it was not a heart attack. But while the guy was doing the EKG, somebody bumped into the couch, and it messed up the reading, and the guy said it wasn't, it had nothing to do with it. He's having a heart attack. He said, you're having a heart attack, sir. And for a minute, my father, I saw real fear. And then he was like a little quiet, and he got back to himself. But that really took like a lot out of him. It weakened him. Like he was weaker after that. The guy's a genius, But even in the ambulance on our way to the hospital, the sirens are doing their thing, and I was like, "It's Shabbos. Tell him to turn down the siren." And the guy was like, "No, sorry, sir. We have to do this when we go through intersections." Whatever the case, but it was wrong. It was not a heart attack. He did have one on an El Al flight when he was 73 years old. And believe it or not, there was not a doctor on the flight. What are the chances from El Al? Or at least no one came.
Did they have a defibrillator?
He didn't need one. He felt a little better. They gave him oxygen. He felt a little better. He came, "Oh, no, I'm fine." I was like, "Go to the doctors." "No, I'm fine." "You're going to the..." Anyway, she basically did the tiger thing. Like, you're not leaving, whatever, till you see a doctor. "Okay, yeah, he had a heart attack." Which saved his life because he had,
Had to have a
4
blockage.
arteries that were like 97% occluded. So, yeah, they could only do a triple bypass. But
Well, that's because in the book, he's constantly going out to breakfast and lunch with everybody. He's in the bagel store every single day.
I'm sure they had
No wonder.
No, but he always so about the bagel after the heart attack.
Every time I'm reading the book,
Nothing.
he took him out to breakfast, he took him out to lunch, he was giving out to this, he was giving out to that. He's like, so one day he's in the bagel store every single day.
You should know that his meetings took place over food. What can I tell you? It's a very Jewish thing to do. It took place all day and all night, but, mealtime was a serious time to meet people. You could have sushi together.
Now, I tried to work this out because, Zachariah Dovid in my little shul over here for the yard site. And I spoke a little bit about your father, and I said, I can't figure out how all of this fits in time-wise. So he says, Chananya did not write the book chronologically. A lot of the stuff that comes later happened first, and then he did it thematically in putting it together. But he started Maganav. He started Sternberg.
Rabbi Bruno Weinberg started Maganav, but he made it work. Yeah.
He recruited, he raised money, he ran programs.
It's so hard to make a living. You know how it is. These people working 17 jobs over
all this stuff, right? And then he's flying around the world getting out prisoners. He's talking to every kid who's off the derech in the greater New York area. He's running over here, he's meeting with this one, he's doing that, he's visiting family in Israel, he's that, all that kind of stuff. Where is the hours in the day to physically do all the stuff that he started Mishkan, he started mental health services in Brooklyn, I just keep, every time the page comes, another organization he's starting, nothing he's doing, and he's meeting with these people.
Well, this would be a great time to make a commercial break for the value of having ADHD. He was everywhere,
Did he actually have ADHD?
I don't think so.
I know he had a business card.
Yeah.
Ronnie Greenwald, ADD, ADHD.
ADD for sure.
And,
is there a difference? Is not a difference. He did have a certain ability to multitask.
So he obviously had a extremely high energy level.
Yeah, and he always stayed on message. He knew how to stay on message, and he always knew how to
do so many messages.
Yes, and he did things quickly, and if you do things quickly and you're doing them all the time, and you do it every day, it really adds up. Like if you're talking to one person a day for 50 years, it's not 10 million. It's not like going to Disneyland a million times, but that's a lot of people, right? He did this. He was always doing.
But he never spoke to one person a day.
Yeah, he spoke to more.
Many more. And that's why there was the story that just before he died, he's sitting on the phone just calling different people to say, "How you doing?"
That's right. Yeah.
That's how it started. Is when he was just married. There was somebody who died, and he used to come and pick up the kids and take them to shul.
He was a bacher. He wasn't married. He was maybe 17. He'd gotten back to New York from Tel. So he was maybe 17.
And it said, and he stayed up with these kids for years.
And he brought them to davening all the time, then he moved, then he went, when the one who was continuing to daven with him, aged out of the youth minyan, so, Tzirah, so then he moved up and then he went back to his place. But yeah, he did that.
I have a list of 100 people that I'm meaning to call.
So did he.
But I made that list like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
And I'm meaning to call them. I really am. I'm really thinking of you. And all you people who wrote emails and you say, why isn't he answering my emails? I'm going to. Just right away, soon. Because I'm disorganized.
Yeah,
I really have AD.
He was super organized. He could just break down everything into the granular parts, and just and that he did that. That's the way he saw like problems. Like he just broke it down into its parts, and it's just it is a special gift that some people have. I mean, he refined it over the years. Obviously, what he did at 17 wasn't what he did at 30. Wasn't what he did at 15.
But he had to have been very high energy.
I think so.
Because it just takes a tremendous amount of strength to do all all the flying back and forth and the traveling. It's got to knock you out, So that's why you have all these pictures when he was younger, when he was first getting married. He's always standing on his head. He's always jumping over here. He's walking on lines. So he obviously had a
sweating, standing on his head.
Right. He obviously, and look on your mother's face, I think, is worth the price of the book alone. When she just marries this guy and he's standing on his head at the wedding. So,
but I think she wasn't surprised by it. Like, this is the guy she married. Like,
I know, but there's a look on her face that I think says a lot. Right. And I have to tell you, that was one of the things that I found so amazing. Lahavdil. Somebody in the Kennedy administration, he said, we used to read about these people that worked with FDR and his cabinet and all the things they accomplished, etc. And we thought they were like superstars. And then I realized they're just like, me and you. They were just regular people doing our jobs. It's just because of the historical context. At the very end of the book, because I read the whole book, just going that in. At the end of the book, your mom writes the following. And I didn't know what to make out of this. Because throughout the entire book, he's written like a superhero. And she says,
it's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. The Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Knowledge and wisdom will help you grow. Lots of fun in every episode. And we don't have to rhyme. No, we don't. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show on RabbiOrlofsky.com. Torah, anytime, YouTube and more. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Till next time, till we meet again. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.